This is Tomo, my 1980 Mazda 626, which I've had since 2015. In October of 2022, that meant about 7 years. If you're wondering what it looks like, I've got plenty of footage coming up. Okay, fine, it looks like this. By this point, I had rebuilt the head gasket 3 times. It came with this 2-liter 4-banger called the Type MA. It developed 74 horsepower, single overhead cam, Hemi heads. And the funny thing about Mazda is that everyone says, oh, the rotaries, you have to replace the apex seals every 100,000 miles. Well, I had this car for like 60,000 miles, and I had to rebuild the head gasket 3 times. The wall between cylinders 3 and 4 is really, really thin, so it was just constantly giving me trouble. I could never get it running right. The carburetor was really complex. I had a Weber on it at one point or another, then I replaced it for the original carburetor. Like October of 21, or 22 rather, it was working really well, or so I thought. I went on several trips during 22 and put about 2,000 miles on the car, thinking that, oh, it's going to last a while. But here, this is the 29th of October, this would be the last time I would drive the car under its own power. I drove it up to who I thought was a friend at the time, and I was going to do some basic stuff on it. Trouble with that, of course, is when I finally got it to him and he opened the car up just to kind of take a look at it, he found that the crankshaft was disintegrating. It was just tearing itself apart. And you can hear it in the footage. It's not sounding happy. So, ultimately, after, because I wasn't going to get rid of this car, it was my baby, my thought was, okay, engine swap. And my friend, Dan, was really the driving force behind that, just kind of telling me, hey, you love this car. Why you hate this engine, why not do an engine swap? I had never done the like of that before. And at the time, I thought, hey, this other guy, this so-called friend who already had my car up at his farm in the middle of nowhere, why not I find a car and he do the engine swap? So I piled into my brother's 1970 Ford F-250 here, and we actually went and found a Miata. Now, the Miata swap idea was primarily because out of all pre-21st century Mazda engines, the Miata B6ZE, or pretty much any Miata at mill, is going to be the most common. Furthermore, I'm thinking ahead 40 years. In 40 years, much like boomers with, small block Chevys, what is going to be the most common Mazda engine? It's not going to be the V6, it's not going to be the rotary, it's going to be the Miata engine. So, I found this guy in Washington, which is like a state and a half away, in this big old Ford. We drove like 2,000 miles in like 20 hours. We were dead by the end of it. We find this like 19-year-old with an almost stash with a little Miata, and we went and I kind of negotiated him down. I ended up paying $900 for it. It barely ran. I'm gonna assume that's just condensation. Oh no, don't die on me! I drove it down the street and it was dying on me. I'm like, okay, I need to get back. So I kind of talked him down from his already low asking price. I got a whole Miata for $900. Send it to this guy, and it becomes increasingly clear he's toxic and really weird and creepy and kind of dangerous as a person. And I'm like, I don't want my baby there at this dude's farm, who's, by the way, 5 hours away from me. So I went up to this dude's farm expecting to do some minor maintenance on my car, because he was like, he worked on cars, and I was like, hey, maybe we can trust this guy. And we ended up just freaking, I ended that year with this resolve of like, I need to rescue this car. When I get money together, I need to go and rescue this thing. And the frickin' Miata I bought that was supposed to be the engine swap. That's how this project began, this kind of harrowing little quest. And so really, as soon as I cobbled that money together, I informed this guy, hey, we're canceling, I'm coming to get my car next weekend. He pulls this toxic bullshit and says, you need to pay me storage fees for your cars. And the worst part of it was, like, some assholes in my car club were, like, defending him, like, it's like, yeah, libertarianism can only go so far. You can't be an asshole. And so this guy was just being awful. Finally, it kind of came down to, okay, it's not, this guy, I knew he had a history of arson, a history of serious crime. He was from the East Coast. He had basically fled out here. I don't want to deal with this guy, so I'll pay his fucking shit ass and we'll take the car and go. And yeah, he kind of just came out, sulked. I gave him the money, and I rescued my baby. And so this rescue effort consisted of my dad, both my brothers, and myself. My dad's truck towed the Miata, and Dan's truck, Dan loaned me his truck to tow Tomo. Be different. Drive the new Pontiac Phoenix 480. And just the kindness of family and friends from the get-go was just exemplary. Just, the people that really mattered in my life all pulled together, pulled their resources, and, helped me get my baby back. And it was great towing Tomo home myself. My baby was there. But here's the thing. I had never wrenched before, and I was now going to do this Miata engine swap into my 1980 Mazda 626. I felt like the worst was over, and I think honestly it was, but ahead of me was, 10 months, a year, depending on which way I count it, of a very long and very fruitful project that really was how I cut my teeth on wrenching. So I'd like to welcome everybody to this series. I'm really not sure how many episodes it'll be. I'm going to try to upload every week. Just compiling and sharing all this footage, which will be informative if you have a 1979, 1980, or 81, or 82 Mazda CB2 chassis code 626 and you want to put a Miata engine in it, or if you just want to see a guy learn how to wrench, mostly with his brother helping him and doing a lot of heavy lifting. I'll try to keep it entertaining. We will see.